Hi, Coach Bret Contreras here. This video is going to discuss the differences between the Romanian deadlift, the American deadlift, the stiff-legged deadlift, and the straight-legged deadlift. Most people don't know the differences between these lifts. Before I get started, I want to emphasize that these are just my opinions. If you talk to 10 different strength coaches or lifters, you'd probably get 10 different answers as to what these different lifts, how they're performed, and what the differences are. But this is how I do it in my gym here at the Glute Lab. These are the way that I distinguish the lifts from one another. So first I will start off with the Romanian deadlift. I'm going to take the bar out of the rack. Bar is resting against my thigh. My chest is up, my shoulders are back. Watch my shins, they will stay vertical throughout the movement. I sit back, the bar is skimming my legs. I get to just below the kneecaps. Okay, my chest is up. I can't go any further, my hamstrings have reached the full stretch. I come back up. So it's just like this. Now again, notice my shins. See that? See how they stay perfectly vertical? Alright, I'm going to keep my head in neutral. Okay, so that's the Romanian deadlift. To me, the only problem with the Romanian deadlift is that we've found here with some of our experiments that you can do this lift without really using the glutes much. So how do you make sure you use the glutes in a Romanian deadlift? In this case, you'll want to incorporate some pelvic motion. When you use pelvic motion, you come down like this. You could say you're in a little bit of anterior pelvic tilt, but probably not much, as long as you just keep a good arch. You don't want to be, like arched as much as possible, but you just keep a decent arch here. You will feel the erectors keeping this anterior pelvic tilt, which puts the hamstrings on stretch. So from right here, this is the bottom of the American deadlift. As you come up, you kind of have this hip extension combined with posterior pelvic tilt, where the glutes are going to cause the pelvis to roll posteriorly. And this is going to increase glute activation dramatically. So, in an American deadlift, you are going to do the same exact way as the RDL, but come up with a big glute squeeze, and you will see the bar push forward a little bit. So if you want to come to the side, an American deadlift, you start from here, same thing. I'm going to sit back, descend to just below the kneecaps, and then squeeze the glutes. So you'll see this bar path, see the bar push forward. And another thing, come up close from the front. This bar is skimming my thighs the whole time. So, one thing you do not want to do with the American deadlift is round the low back. You will come down, you will come up, and there's a glute squeeze, but there is no lumbar motion. There might be some upper back rounding, and there's some posterior pelvic tilting, but the lumbar spine does not move. You're using the glutes to tilt the pelvis. Alright, some lifters would just say that a good Romanian deadlift is an American deadlift. But I've never seen a coach really emphasize the glute squeeze in an RDL. And so when you do it that way, you end up using the glutes more and kind of sharing the load between the glutes and the hamstrings. There was a lift that was popularized by Louis Simmons a while back with Westside Barbell Club. He called them Dimal deadlifts, which stood for Matt Dimal, the guy who would do them most often. And they're just high rep American deadlifts, done for like 15 to 30 reps. So again, you just come down a little bit, maybe not below the kneecaps, and you just squeeze the glutes. You use about, say, 20 to 40% of your 1 rep max deadlifts. So I could use like 185 or so and just do them high reps, just kind of like this. And do them right, it kind of feels like a hip thrust because you're pushing the hips forward with the glutes. Okay, now moving on to the stiff leg deadlift and the straight leg deadlift. A lot of coaches would not name a discrepancy between these two. They would think that they are synonymous, but I don't think they are, the way, at least the way that I learned years ago. To me, the stiff-legged deadlift, you can start, the Romanian deadlift and the American deadlift, you want to start out of the rack, so you're starting from the top down. The stiff-legged deadlift, you can start from the top down or start from the bar on the floor, and all it is a high hip deadlift where you're trying to keep the hips as high as possible while still having a neutral spine. So if I come down here, and I'll do them double overs, if I come here, this is as high as I can get the hips without rounding my spine. So I'll just go from here. You will notice that my legs do bend. Come to the side. My legs are bending in the stiff-legged deadlift. So, it's like this. So see how my legs bend? Alright, so that's a stiff-legged deadlift. In a straight-legged deadlift, I am going to actually keep my legs straight. My legs will be, they're not like locked out like this, but they will be straight. I will not be bending them. Now, when you do the straight-legged deadlift, you will sit back. The bar will actually separate from the body. This is the only lift, the only variation where the bar doesn't drag against the thighs. So the straight leg deadlift, I would normally start out of the rack. So I'd start from here, take it out of the rack. Okay, chest up, shoulders back, lock the legs. So really, like from right here, I can't go much deeper because my legs are locked out and I am keeping my chest up. This is about as deep as I can go. If I do go deeper, watch what I end up doing. I end up rounding my back. Like that. You see a lot of like old school bodybuilders who do it that way. In fact, a lot of guys used to do these standing on a bench press. They'd stand on the bench, on the mat with a very narrow stance, go all the way down until the bar touched their feet, their shoes. I do not recommend that. So like, you kind of go like this. See, the bar is touching my shoes right now, and they go. Like that. And keep the legs as straight as possible while rounding the spine. That probably won't hurt you if you're going light, using really light loads like 135 or 185. But you start getting stronger at that, that's probably going to take its toll. So I do not recommend doing them that way, but you could do them the way I showed, where you keep the spine arched. The bar will drift away a little bit. You do feel good stretching the hamstrings that way, but it doesn't work the glutes well. So for that reason, we do not do the straight-legged deadlifts very often. Here at Glute Lab, we don't do Romanian deadlifts because American deadlifts are better, and we do stiff-legged deadlifts. So let me review those one more time. Romanian deadlift, start from the top, chest up, shoulders back, sit back, head in neutral, come up. The only difference between an RDL and an American deadlift is the RDL, you don't come up and squeeze the glutes. With American deadlifts, glute squeeze, bar is pushed forward. So So American deadlift like this. Stiff-legged deadlift. Bars on the ground. Hips are high. Hips are as high as I can go. And then you have the straight-legged deadlift, which start from the top, lock the legs. Again, we don't really do the straight leg deadlift. We don't do the Romanian deadlift. We stick to the American deadlift and the stiff-legged deadlift here. I hope you enjoy the video.